Meet Will and Tom, two seemingly ordinary men, cursed with a gift of vast knowledge that is forever expanding. Possessing incredible insight with unparalleled skills and expertise. Let us join them as they embark on a journey to quench their thirst for the truth while answering the questions to life's most intriguing mysteries. Let us open our minds and ask, dude, could you imagine? Could you imagine? Could you imagine? Imagine awakening from a coma after a year. Your muscles would ache from atrophy. Your eyes would have to adjust to the light. You may be confused as to what happened and why you're in a hospital bed. But what if you were in a coma for 20 years? For some, this may be a quarter of their life, gone. Let us listen in to our two comatose commentators, Will and Tom, as they unconsciously give an answer. Welcome back, everybody. This is Thomas Case.
This is William Stark.
Did that throw you off?
It did. I wasn't expecting it, but I mean, if it becomes the new norm, I'm totally okay with that.
Actually, I'm going to keep you guessing every time.
Okay, for sure.
All right, down to business, shall we?
Yeah. Let's shall.
This question is actually inspired by something. It was a movie my wife wanted to watch, and we saw it, and it was actually kind of funny. It starred Rebel Wilson, but.
Okay, I'm vaguely familiar with her.
Yeah, it's called Senior Year. But the question is, and this is basically the premise of the movie, what if you suddenly awaken after a 20-year coma?
Dear God. So I'd be 53. Oh, God.
Yeah, 53.
Okay.
Damn it, I'd be 61.
So
the
parameters. Yeah, I was going to say, does this happen now or does this happen earlier in our lives?
No, the parameters is after last episode that we recorded, you mysteriously you mysteriously fall into a coma.
The lizard
for 20
people
years.
got us. Oh, fuck.
Yeah, the lizard people did something to your mind.
Oh, jeez.
And for 20 years there's been another William, but it's a lizard person.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Man, we just turned this episode. I just gave it a shot of steroids right now.
Yeah, like when you first said the question, I wasn't like, someone took my place. Are we going with that?
No.
Okay.
We're not going to go
right.
with that. No.
Okay.
That would maybe sometime in the future, maybe we'll do an Echoes from the Past segment and we'll talk about that again, but we'll add that little element in the question.
For sure.
No, for this one is after last episode, you mysteriously fall into a coma for 20 years and then suddenly awake. They don't know what it was that caused you to get into the coma. Yeah, you just mysteriously fall into one.
I would be number one. I would be very, very shocked that the plug wasn't pulled on me by that point. 20 years is extraordinarily long time, and that's a lot of money.
You could thank your fiance for that. She loves you so much she could not bear to, you know what I mean, like pull the plug on you. Plus, you know what though? Like, I don't know, when you're in a coma though, that doesn't technically mean that you're like, you have to have the machines to help you live, right?
Yeah, but people have to feed you and shit.
Yeah, it does cost money in the hospital. You're right about that part. But I don't think they could pull a plug. But you're right. If they just stopped feeding you, you would die.
I think that might be a thing, dude.
Yeah. But before we go any further, because Fritz is in a coma, I had to do my own deep dive.
Definitely. That's way more likely than he's a lizard person.
You think so? I don't know, man.
Absolutely.
I'm still going with lizard person, but he might be in a coma. But I had to do my own deep dive. Let's go to the deep dive, shall we?
Let's do it.
Details from the deep.
So a person in a coma is unconscious, not sleeping. Someone who is in a coma is unconscious and won't respond to voices, other sounds, or any type of activity happening around them. A person in a coma is still alive, but the brain is functioning at its lowest stage of alertness. You can't, quote unquote, wake someone up from a coma by shaking them or shouting their name loudly like you can with a person who has fallen asleep.
Right.
William, wake up. We got to continue the podcast. Come on. You'd have me and Brian doing that.
Yeah,
seriously. You have two
seriously.
podcasts. A coma can be caused by different things. Cause of a coma include a severe injury to the head or the brain, seizures, infections involving the brain damage caused by a lack of oxygen, a stroke, a chemical imbalance, or a drug overdose. In each of these cases, a person's brain cells might be affected, which could make someone unconscious.
Okay.
So don't do drugs, everybody. Also, don't get an infection that involves your brain.
Yeah, I mean, try and
That
avoid
sounds
that
scary.
if you can.
Yeah, I know, right? Someone in a coma needs serious medical attention. When a person is in a coma, they usually need to be cared for at a hospital in the intensive care unit. A team of doctors, nurses, and medical staff make sure that the person in the coma gets the fluids, nutrients, and medications they need to keep the body as healthy as possible. Someone in a coma often needs a feeding tube, and some patients are unable to breathe on their own. In these cases, the patient needs a ventilator to keep breathing, obviously.
Right.
If a loved one is in a coma, families and friends aren't powerless. For those who have a loved one in a coma, it's normal to feel frustrated, upset, scared, or helpless. However, families and friends can help take care of their loved ones while they are in the hospital. It's important to visit with the person in the coma, talk to them, read to them, play their favorite music. It's possible that someone in a coma might be able to hear what's going on, even if they seem unresponsive.
Interesting. So they're saying, like, if you can do this, do it, because there's a chance your loved one's trapped in living hell.
Yeah, exactly. I just thought about that right now. Like, if you could hear all that and you're hearing your loved one like crying because they're, you know what I mean? Like, it would make them sad, or they're talking to you and you want to so badly say something, but you just cannot respond at all.
Right.
Here's a little
like
bit
the worst
of
sleep paralysis.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be scary. Here's a little bit of good news, though. Most people do come out of a coma. Generally, most patients at a hospital do come out of a coma. Typically, a coma does not last more than a few days or a couple of weeks. In some rare cases, a person might stay in a coma for several weeks, months, or even years. Depending on what caused the person to go into a coma, some patients are able to return to their normal lives after leaving the hospital. Unlike what you might see on TV, a person coming out of a coma will probably be confused and respond slowly, often needing time to recover.
Yeah, without a doubt. Holy crap.
Yeah, but see, what I see on TV is, that's my knowledge.
Oh boy.
No, just playing. In some instances, a person who comes out of a coma can remember what happened to them and are able to resume their normal activities. In other cases, a coma patient might need therapy to relearn basic tasks and functions like tying their shoes, eating with a fork, and learning how to walk again. It is possible for people who have been in a coma to make progress and improve their quality of life. So that's good to know.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. Anything else?
No, that's all I got for that.
Okay, so 20 years is, dear Jesus Christ, that's such a long time. I think this is really bad because, well, I mean, it's just obviously really bad, but like for me, I mean, I would be filled with such a great amount of rage and anger that I lost out on 20 years of my life. 20 years that like I very much meant to do things with. And now that's been taken from me, and like my life, for all intents and purposes, from my experience, I just lost 20 years off my life, and now I have way less time on this earth.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I would definitely feel cheated.
Yeah, I'd be extremely angry. I'd be extremely mad about losing out on my kid's entire childhood and teenage years.
Oh, you know what? That's okay. Okay, let me paint you a picture, and I want you to respond of what you you feel like your honest reaction would be if you could imagine coming out of a coma like this. So you're opening your eyes right out of the coma, right?
Okay.
You're opening the eyes, and obviously you're probably confused, you know what I mean? Because you're not. I don't even know if you would expect to be in your room. Like, I don't know if you would remember why you were even in the coma. But so you open your eyes and you look over, and you see 20 years older Michelle, Liam, and Scarlett.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, do you think maybe you would recognize, Michelle, but like,
as for the baby, he's probably the least recognizable, just because babies change so drastically, before they become kids and then adults. But the other two, I'm sure I would recognize right away. Like, I don't know, like, even like, so in Dungeons and Dragons, we role play a lot of things, right? And there are kind of limits to people's acting abilities, and you do the best you can. This is something so utterly traumatic. Like, I can't even begin to know what would possibly feel like, or what that could possibly feel like, except for to say that, like, it feels the me who's here now, with like a sense of absolute horror and existential dread, followed by like just profound sadness and like. Yeah, that it would be a negative emotion on a scale of which I've never experienced before, and God, I hope I never experience, and like I do not wish that to experience upon anybody. You know what I mean? That's so drastically, horrifyingly bad. And honestly, I feel like if I had to guess, I would say that the entire experience would be so overwhelming, and so because you're getting hit from so many angles. And also so confusing, and like, the 5 stages of grief, like you're going to go through all of them multiple times in like the first 2 minutes of being awake, and probably for the rest of your life. Like, I can't even imagine, like, just the denial, and then the anger, and, the bargaining in your head that you're going through. Like, just like, I mean, that's enough to drive someone crazy. It's enough to make him snap,
Yeah, that is true. I don't even know. I'll be honest with you. I'm having difficult just even imagining how I could feel. You know what I mean? If that happened, like,
yeah, I mean,
it would be something.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say it would just be something so powerful, or overwhelming.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
think a lot of it does have to do with the length of time. 20 years is so long. Like, for most people, if they're lucky, that's an entire quarter of their life. You know what I mean? Like, that's 25% of their entire life just got lost. And that's if they're lucky. Some people, they unfortunately die early, and that could be up to like a third of your life. And I've known people who have passed away very unfortunately in their 40s. So we're talking 50% of your life. I mean, if we rewired this question to be 5 years, like it would be heartbreaking, but I feel like it would be heartbreaking, but like you could overcome it. Like I can see the end of that tunnel of like, okay, I lost 5 years. So for me, it's like, okay, now I'm 38. My kid's 5, but like he's still a kid, and he's gonna know his dad, and I can pick up the pieces and start rebuilding a life here and now. But when we jump to 20, it's like, fuck, what does anyone do at that point? You're too old to work. You've done nothing to, like, just financially, like, right? So you have no retirement. You have no build up Social Security. You have no probably no car, no house, no nothing. You have nothing. You're in your 50s. You've lost your kids. Like, if you're lucky, your kids will be very excited to at least get to know you now, but like, you've lost out on everything there. The relationship that you probably had, in this case with me and my fiance, like I would very, very much hope that my fiance found someone else, because, it would be so, I can't imagine being a single mom for 20 years, and how the world is today. The economy is so bad. Like, God, like, I would hope. But then I'd have to deal with that. It'd be like, it's a Castaway problem when Tom Hanks gets back from the island and his wife found somebody else, right? But like, I would hope that in 20 years, like, she found someone to share a life with and be happy, because dear God, the 20 years, man. Fuck. Like,
I wish
at that age, like in my 50s, especially because, you know, I've been atrophying in a bed for 20 years. Like, I'll never lift weights again. I'll never like, not in a way that I do now, you know. I'll probably never play a sport or anything like basically, like, my life has been ruined to an extreme degree at this point.
Yeah.
And
I was actually going to bring that up. Go ahead.
No. I mean, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to bring that up though, what you were talking about with your muscles being atrophied, like, because you were talking about how, like, you know, you don't, you know, everything has been taken from you, your you know, your job, you know, all that kind of stuff. But like, even if you were to try and want to move on, like, you can't do that right away because, like, you wouldn't be able to do anything. Like, you're gonna have to relearn. I don't think you move on
from this.
You know?
I think this is something like, I don't think all the therapy in the world, all the whatever you want to throw at this issue in the world, like, you're gonna die fucked up in the head from this. The trauma and the stress that this is gonna induce is gonna be on a level that, like, you won't live long enough to get through it and to the other side of that.
Yeah, the only way I can see, like, even somebody, like, being able to even have, like, a sliver of a chance is if you were really young when you slipped into this coma and then the 20 years passed.
Yeah, but even that is so debilitating. So imagine a 5-year-old goes into a 20-year coma and they wake up 25. Well, guess what? They only ever learn things up to 5 years old.
Yeah, from 5 years old.
Yeah,
that's very interesting. I never thought about it that way.
And they're absolutely devastated for the rest of their life. Absolutely.
Yeah, like, you know what? You're right. I wouldn't. I don't know why I automatically assumed, like, you know, okay, you wake up at 25 and you're going to be like a 25-year-old, but no, because you slipped into the coma when you were 5, you're going to act like a 5-year-old in a 25-year-old's body.
Yeah, there's no age in which this could happen to you, and it's at all like a scenario where, like, you know what? Okay, at least it happened to me at this age. No. I think the best you could hope for is it hits you at 75 and you wake up at 95 and you're like, well, and even then, like, I mean, what do I know? I'm not a 75-year-old. I don't know what it's like to be 75-year-old. And maybe at that point in my life, it's just as devastating to lose those 20 years as it is if I was younger. So it's hard to say, but my God, man, it's such a depressing thought to really try and go through that scenario of, like, what if? I mean, if there's any silver lining, sad one here. No. If there's any silver lining, and this is honestly not much of one really, but, like, people are going to want to know about you and your experience. They're going, like, you're going to be a study for sure, and, like, you'll definitely be able to write a book or a podcast if you really want to.
Oh my God! Can you imagine, like, the Coma cast?
It would it's not going to be called the Coma cast. Dear God, Tom.
I mean, if it was me, I'd be calling it Tom the Coma cast.
But I mean, and that's just a small. I don't know, man. I don't know. I do think that person would be famous, but then again, maybe there's people that this is happening to, and I've never heard of this happening in any way that stuck with me. So, like, has this happened before?
Yeah, you know what? Like, I believe
Googling.
there has been very rare cases, but you also have to imagine this, like, okay, let's say it did happen to you, and then you do have all these interested parties, you know, these media sites and whatever, like, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the person would like to have that spotlight.
Oh yeah,
on
too.
them,
I'm talking to myself. So Elaine Esposito she was born in Oh, no. It looks like in 1934, she went into a coma. She came out of that coma in 1978, 37 years later.
Wow, really?
Yes. Dear God, Elaine Esposito.
Wow.
I need to know about this person.
I know. We'll have to, you know, we may want to bring this one up again later too, with more information on her.
Yeah, maybe we'll do a thing on her maybe next episode. But yeah, that's the longest. I mean, the thing is, and maybe I'm wrong here, and you can tell me if you agree or not. After 20 years, who fucking cares? Like 25, 30, 40, like 40 years, you lost your life. You lost your life one way or another. Oh
yeah,
like,
no, I do agree.
Like,
yeah,
it's equally as debilitating and horrifying.
Man, that is definitely depressing to think about.
Oh, dude, she was 6 years old when she went into a coma.
Wow, really?
Yeah,
oh
so
my
she
God.
was a 6-year-old. She woke up and she would have been 43 years old.
Well, okay, you know what? Okay, let's say it right here. Do you want to maybe we'll do research on her next episode we record. It'll be a whole segment of Echoes of the Past because we'll talk about this episode and we'll just talk about her case.
We'll talk about it.
I think that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Absolutely. Let's do that.
But
what
one thing
you,
I
man?
wanted to bring.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say for me. First of all, yeah, I agree with a lot of things you said. Like, I mean, your life's going to basically be over. I mean, for me, I'm going to be 61. You know, if I were to go into coma right now and wake up 20 years later, my wife would be 51. And you know what I mean? And hopefully, which I don't think he will survive that long, you know, because dogs normally don't live that long, but you know, there won't be any Chewy, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
there.
your dog,
That's a sad thought. But you know, I just wanted to bring up the part you said about like, you would hope that your fiance found someone else within the meantime. You know, I always say this when, the same thing that happened in Castaway. I always tell my wife, like, if that happens and I come back, like, you're back with me now. You know what I mean?
You know, that again, that like that, even that, although I don't agree with that, I think that logic can hold up at least a little bit when it's something like 3 to 5 years, right? Even though it's more complicated than that. But when you're in it's 2 decades, like, I think all fucking bets are off.
No, I say that half jokingly, but the part that's truthful about it is I know that's how I would feel though. I would feel that way.
Yeah,
you know
of course
Where
you
I
would
be like,
for
I want you
no
to come
time
back.
went by. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. But I wouldn't expect, like, in all honesty, I wouldn't expect her to. You know what I mean?
Can you imagine, like, I would imagine this is what would happen with me. Every single day I went to sleep, I would be hoping that I would wake up from the dream that is this nightmare.
Oh,
you know, I know. Just like how I went to sleep one day and I woke up in this nightmare, I'd probably spend the rest of my life every time I went to bed hoping that I woke up in my past body.
Yeah. Honestly, dude, like, I would, because, you know, once you woke up from the coma, they're not going to send you home right away from the hospital.
Yeah.
And the way I would feel is every night when I went to sleep back in that hospital bed, I would probably feel almost the exact intensity of feelings when I wake up the next day from being waking up from the coma, because I would look around and realize I'm still in the hospital bed, which means this is not a dream and it's the truth.
Right, exactly. Like I said, I don't think there's any level of like therapy or help a person could get in this situation that would, you know, I don't know, like help them get over this. You know what I mean? It's just, I just think there's some things you just don't get over.
No, yeah. No matter how much like you go to any kind of counseling or therapy or anything like that, this isn't something I don't think anyone can solve.
Nope.
You know, so I do want to, you know, I'm very curious on our listeners. If you know, I want to hear back what you guys would feel, what you think you would feel like after a 20-year coma. What's the first things you might want to look up, you know, that have changed, if you think technology may have changed within that 20 years.
Oh, God, we didn't even talk about that. We didn't even talk about, like, how much the world would have changed, right? So it's like people go to prison for 20 years and they come out, they can't find a job because the whole world's different.
What's changed?
Yeah, like, we didn't even talk about that because, like, honestly, to me, at that point, it'd just be secondary. but yeah, like, that would be yet another impossible hurdle to overcome. Like, look at how a lot of older folks struggle with the internet or computers now. Like, imagine what you would struggle with after 20 years of just not being on the map at all. You come out of a cave, and 20 years later, the tech's going to be so different that you're going to have no reference for how things developed over time.
Yeah, I know. I also was thinking about that too when we were talking about like being in this hospital room, is like when you open your eyes, how much would have changed within 20 years? Like, would there be so much of a change in technology that you may not even be like, oh, am I in a hospital room? Like, what is this?
I don't see that. Okay, so I don't think that would happen. I think you wouldn't really feel the technological change until you're out into the world. I think you're going to wake up and it's going to look like a hospital, right? I think maybe something, you might think it's a really nice hospital because you're like, oh, wow, you know, like all their equipment's like really fancy and it looks like really like, you know, I'm
glad I have really good insurance.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. But I think once you're out in the world and you're having to do everyday things, whether it's like order a pizza or get a job or anything along those lines, like you're probably going to be faced with tech that you don't know how to use and you don't understand.
Yeah, I think that would be a trip. I know this sounds like a joke because like, but I know like I probably would want to. I would probably, that's most of my questions to my wife, if she's still my wife, if she was there when I awoke from the coma. Well, that's probably not the first things I'll be talking about, but after a few days or whatever, I'd probably be asking like what else has changed, like. How do we still have cell phones? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
or like what kind of new video games have come out? Like
the United States is now a monarchy.
yeah.
and who knows what other crazy stuff. Australia doesn't exist anymore. The animals took over.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
crazy stuff.
If she told me that all the venomous, poisonous animals like in Australia took over, I'd be like, oh, well, yeah, I kind of saw that coming.
Yeah, right. I mean, also, like you'd probably be coming back in a time where, like, a lot of global warming and the backlash of, like, the mass extinction of animals and all that stuff would be really, really underway at that point. And so that would be another thing that would be hugely different. Yeah. But all right, you know what? I'm almost like, let's stop talking about this. This is getting real dark, this episode.
I know. Well, the one thing I'd hope too is I come out of the coma and she's like, oh, I forgot. I got you a PS10. Like a PlayStation 10.
You're just like, you look directly at the camera. Worth it.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Stupid.
Oh man. But yeah, you know what? I'm very curious for our listeners to let us know what they think, how they think things will change in 20 years if they were in a coma, how they would feel. I know it's a sad subject to think about, but it's also, I want to know if there's anyone out there who feels that way about the same as me about this castaway situation. Like if your significant other found someone else because they thought you either dead or you're in a coma for 20 years and now you're back, like, would you expect them to be like, okay, now you're back with me now? You know what I mean? Or would you be more happy on like, I'm glad they found someone. But you know what, William, dude, let's not imagine this, okay?
Yeah, no more imaginings for today.
I open my mind's eye and peer into the dimensions, looking for those who will speak or give noticeable mention, whether they be new or with us all along. Let me hear all the messages from beyond. And welcome to Messages from Beyond. We actually had quite a few of people write in. One of them I thought was really interesting. They wrote it for, and this is all they said. And I don't know why he wrote this. It was from Darnell Hudson.
Okay.
He wrote it under the episode of season 2, episode 22, Kiss My Asteroid Goodbye. And I'm kind of confused on this. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
what
kind of
was
confused
it?
on this. Maybe you could. He just says, "Hey guys, by the way, Fritz is stuck in your head." Like, I mean, I don't get what that means. Like, because Fritz hasn't been around.
I mean, it's
but
just
like,
got to be another joke because every episode you're coming up with a joke of what's up with Fritz. So maybe that's just his joke, which is a good one. I like that one.
I did, yeah. It confused me at first. Actually, we have another one for season 2, episode 23. Help! I need somebody. Mm-hmm. And we got one from Eric Orzov, and he says, before you even mentioned it, my thought was a financial advisor. Oh, by the way, that Help! I Need Somebody was about if you could get one personal assistant for one aspect of your life.
Yeah, that's the episode where Tom just had the right answer immediately, and we didn't have much else to talk about.
Yeah, I don't know if it was the right answer, but yeah, maybe it was the right
seems
answer.
like Eric agrees, so...
Yeah, he says, before you even mention it, my thought was a financial advisor, but if we were going to be fun, see, that's the main part of the thing. If we're going to be fun,
financial stability is fun, Eric.
Yeah, right. He says, if we're going to be fun, I would hire a writer, a DM from time to time, or he says he DMs from time to time, and someone to implement my ideas would be amazing.
Oh, like implement them into fiction instead of a D&D game? Is that what he means?
I believe so.
Okay, I can see that because I'm like, why would you want someone to write your D&D campaigns for you? But no, okay, that makes sense. That would be really cool. I see the value in that for sure. That's awesome.
Yeah. I thought this was funny. This was also written under Season 2, Episode 22, Kiss My Asteroid Goodbye. We have from Joseph Parent. He says, I can relate to William. I introduce myself as Joseph, which I prefer. 98% of everyone I know have all devolved to calling me Joe.
Yeah, it just happens. It just happens. And then you get tired of correcting people. And so you just give up. But go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. He says, and I do appreciate the people that remember and are used to calling me Joseph. I also prefer to call people by their proper first names unless they have a preference otherwise. Little side note, there's lots of names I think are great until they're shortened. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with syllables.
No, definitely not. And, but you also, like, in my case, I mean, I think it's easy to just become part of the problem because I think for me, it's just like I get tired of introducing myself as William, but it devolves to Will. So it's like, I'll just introduce myself as Will and I won't be mad about it anymore. Cause like, you know what I mean? Like, cause I led with exactly. Will, right? And that's kind of what has happened to me over the last few years. But now I'm taking a stand.
yeah, I know, right? Like, no more shall you be calling me Will.
Right, indeed. So yeah.
Okay, so I got the last one right here. This was written under Season 2, Episode 20, Where We're Going, We Don't Need Roads, which was all about if transportation, there was no transportation.
Yeah, I remember that.
Victor Rodriguez wrote, hoping I'm rich in this reality so 4 guys can carry me in a chair. Okay, probably 6 guys. Thank you, pandemic pounds.
For sure. So like a palanquin.
Yeah, I guess so.
That, you know what? Like I would never want to ride in a palanquin because I don't want to like basically be a physical burden on people. But low key, right? I would like to know what it's like to ride in a palanquin.
Oh, really?
Just because it just seems so bizarre. It's so bizarre.
Yeah, that's
yeah. So I'm sure there's a place where you could pay for it, but I would feel bad doing it, so I wouldn't do it.
Yeah. So I'm not like the most heaviest person, like that I know, but I'm a pretty hefty guy, and whenever I always see things like that, I always feel uncomfortable because I definitely don't want no one to carry me, but it also extends over to horseback riding. Even though I know a horse can definitely take my weight and run around and do all that stuff, I just think in my head, why does this horse have to have my heavy ass on its back? Like,
well, it doesn't, Tom. It doesn't.
I know that's why I don't go horseback riding. But I mean, I'm just saying, like, that's how uncomfortable I am with having someone carry me.
No, I understand for sure, absolutely.
But dude, could you imagine? The podcast you have just heard are the imaginings from the highly evolved minds of the extra-dimensional beings, Will and Tom. It has been translated into a format more easily understood by the human mind. Interpret it as you will. Should you find yourself seeking more answers to life's most intriguing mysteries, you can show your support by becoming a Patreon member at patreon.com/dude-could-you-imagine. You can also leave an Apple Podcast review. You can subscribe to us on Instagram at dude_could-you-imagine, on Twitter at DCYimagine, and on our YouTube channel, where you can leave a like and a comment. We can also be reached through our email, dudecouldyoimagine@gmail.com. We leave you now so that you may gather your thoughts, until we meet again, to ponder the meaning of the cosmos and ask, dude, could you imagine? Could you imagine? Could you imagine?
You'll definitely be able to write a book or a podcast if you really want to.
Oh my God! Can you imagine like the Coma cast?
It would no, it's not going to be called the Coma cast. Dear God, Tom.
I mean, if it was me, I'd be calling it Tom the Coma cast.